Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely Stream Deck. For more information about the Stream Deck, the link is in the description below.
G'day ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 16th round of the AOR Hype Energy Xbox One Oceania F1 League. We are getting towards the pointy end of the season, and this is our final European destination on the calendar. We're here at the Sochi Autodrom for today's Russian Grand Prix. My name is Fitcho, and commentating alongside me tonight is Jess Games 95.
Be an exciting one for the drivers, especially for a few guys who wasn't here last week, so should be absolutely quite a cracker to see how these guys are going to do. The first race was held just 8 months after Sochi staged the Winter Olympics, and in the same Olympic Park president that hosted the indoor sports and opening and closing ceremonies. And there was quite interesting facts coming up as well for that, as well as the initial 7-year contract for the race was funded by the Russian government with strong support from Vladimir Putin, and the event's place on the calendar already confirmed until 2020. This promoter signed for 5 more years, which is quite a lot, so expect to see lots of action today from the drivers alike. The race has been in planning for over 30 years now, and it was first discussed by Bernie Ecclestone back in 1980 during the Moscow Summer Olympics about wanting to bring F1 to the Russian capital. To make it a reality though, it would take another Olympics, possibly a Winter Olympics. Even though the Grand Prix has had some good last lap battles, for example the 2015 Grand Prix where Raikkonen and Bottas made contact on the final lap, the Sochi Autodrom hasn't been that popular among fans or the drivers due to the lack of overtaking opportunities and making it like a possession. But it has been proved wrong in the past, where we have seen some brilliant battles in AOR, not forgetting the battle between Tina Nakarinen and Formula Danny back in season 14. Watch out for turn 3, where a lot of drivers can get caught out, because if they lose the back end, then it can cause trouble. The Hypersofts are back in action once again this weekend, but expect it to last a bit longer than Singapore, because Russia has lower tyre wear compared to the other tracks the Hypersofts are used. The other tyres used this weekend are the Ultras and the Softs, therefore missing out the Softs completely. Russia wasn't on the AOR calendar last season in season 15, so the lap record was set by current F1 PCM.
Riding on board for a hot lap round the Russian Grand Prix, courtesy of Formula Danny in the Mercedes. Of course, taking all 5 wins here. So the 5.8 kilometre circuit, first ride onto the F1 calendar back in 2014. Flat out turn 1 for a heavy braking zone of turn 2. Nailed the apex, which Danny does very nicely indeed. Set yourselves up for the swimming left-hander of turn 3. Up the inside, like your favourite granny, for another heavy braking zone of turn 4 approaches. As we begin the second sector of 90-degree corner complex. Don't run too wide at turn 5, as your lap could be ruined right there and right then. Flat out turn 6. For a slight break at turn 7, down to 5th gear, Danny takes it. Now position your car as much right as possible for throwing your car in turn 8. Danny really going for it on this lap before he ends the complex of 90-degree corners. At turn 10, as he heads on to the second dose of DRS down the back straight, where overtaking is certainly possible with DRS and slipstream. Now a very tricky braking zone of turn 13, down to 3rd gear, he takes it, clearing the curb to absolute perfection for a sweeping left-hander of 14 in a sector where the drivers can win or lose a lot of time. 15 partially blind for using as much track space as possible on the exit of turn 16 as he closes out the lap. Black ball for turn 17, 2 90-degree corners to go now as he closes out the lap around the final corner for Formula Danny, and that is the lap of the Russian Grand Prix. What a lap from Formula Danny.
So, qualifying is well and truly underway here in Russia. We're about 8 minutes into this 18-minute session, leaving exactly 10 minutes left to go. And as it stands right now, we have V Fens on pole position on what looks set to be a Williams front row lockout if the session was to end right this second. But we know with this game, F1 2018, the track progression throughout the qualifying session is very, very important. And the times at the start of the session aren't all that representative. That said, a 1:29.6 is actually quite similar to the pole times I've been hearing from a few of the drivers, but Greek and Fens are separated by about almost 2/10 of a second, I should say, 0.177. Both of them have set laps on the Hypersofts. You have New Zealand Ryan there about a second off the pace. He set his lap on the Ultrasofts at the moment. Now let's talk about tyres. Obviously Russia is one of the lowest tyre deg circuits on the entire calendar. We have pretty much all the softest compound tyres available, Hypers, Ultras. We skip the Supers for some reason and we get the Softs instead, but it's looking set to be a one-stop strategy here in Russia, starting on those Hypersoft tyres, qualifying on the softest compound you can, go as fast as you possibly can, make one stop onto the next softest tyres, the ultra soft tyres, and go to the end of the race. The pit window does actually look to be quite large from talking to different drivers, anywhere from lap 5 to lap 10. We'll just have to wait and see how that does play out, but we're not unlikely to see any strategy really play out through this qualifying session. By the end of the session, I expect everyone to be on those pink Hypersoft tyres and pushing to the absolute limit.
Yes, it does last for quite a while, more than Singapore. Singapore did last for around about 3 or 4 laps, but nobody did go on the Hypersofts in Singapore due to the fact that it was raining in qualifying, so we didn't see those in Singapore, but we obviously do see those around Russia. Should be interesting actually to see if anyone is going to opt for the alternate strategy. Master Berserkers offers one at the moment. We see Neil Tridome has just gone wide in turn 3, which is quite a common place to lose your back end quite a lot, so you've got to be careful with that. As Fen's the first person to go into the 129s, which is a good lap for him at this moment in time. And speaking of the championship, actually, due to Jared's win last week, Jared closes up to New Zealand Ryan and Greek Master 99 in the championship. Unfortunately, Jared could not make it tonight, so he's not racing, so that means more points will be scored between New Zealand Ryan and Greek. We all know the battle between Team Ryan versus Greek throughout the whole season, and Greek Master's been managing to hold on the lead for about 2 weeks now, due to the fact he scored second place compared to New Zealand Ryan's third place. 10 points gap separating between these two now, so not as close as last week, but still incredibly tight as we go to the final few races of the season. And we also got Fens in the other Williams in 4th place there. And in terms of the constructors, it's close as well between the two teams. Williams and Ferrari are closing up, as well as Mercedes as well. We also got Dominator joining in the other Mercedes, I think filling in for Drop Bear as well, so he's back after a few seasons, and I remember him having a good result in Australia, so I wonder how he's going to do around here and how he's going to cope after a long time not playing on F1 2018 on AOR. We've still got 6 minutes left to go. Fens is leading the race right now.
Yeah, the championship situation is quite an interesting one right now. Over the last few rounds, it seemed like Jared has been slowly clawing back at those top 3, trying to make a push for the championship. He sits just 33 points back off the lead with about 6 races to go, I should say. But if you guys didn't know, over the last 24 hours, Ben, Jared, and Ryan all competed together in the Bathurst 12-hour on iRacing. For some reason, they chose the race that went from midnight to midday, roughly enough their time, of course, spread across 3 different time zones, but roughly enough, it went from midnight to midday instead of the midday to midnight session. So they went to bed about 7 hours ago, and they're just having to get up now for AOR. It looks like Ryan and Ben actually woke up to their alarm, and unfortunately Jared hasn't. There is still about a 6-minute window for him to wake up, quickly get to his Xbox, and he might be able to get in this session and start last, but it is not looking good for Jared and his push for the championship, trying to make this a 3-way fight. Of course, most of the season we've been talking, it is Greek versus Ryan, and if Jared doesn't make it tonight, I think that's going to be the case towards the end of this season. With 6 races to go, they are separated by 10 points only. 662 points plays 252. Very, very close in the championship, and I expect to see those two at the top of the field yet again. But how is Fens going to play into this, as well as Team Marduk? Of course, the 2 championship contenders, teammates, playing into this. And this is also going to be the last race for Team Marduk in the Oceania League. Of course, he's moving to the UK, and he's going to be moving across to the European League. So how is he going to play a role in tonight's race? Is he going to play a supporting role and try to help out Ryan? Or as his last race in this league, is he going to try and go all out and win it? What about Fens? Is he going to try and play that supporting role for Greek? Or is he going to try and sort of fend off Tim Marduk, try and stop Ben taking away too many points here? Of course, that's the constructors to think about as well. That's leaning towards Williams, I do believe. And with Ben leaving, I doubt they're going to be able to do much for Ferrari to come back.
Yes, so Ben has got to score some very good points today to make sure it doesn't leave it all to New Zealand Ryan. So pretty much Williams has this in the bag. We'll just have to wait and see. But also don't forget the midfield fight between Mercedes and Red Bull as well. But I think Mercedes are pretty much quite comfortably in third place over Red Bull due to the fact Jaro Vin has scored multiple wins there and there. HO scored a win, I believe, I forgot what it was. I think it was in Azerbaijan that he scored a win due to penalties. I think that's the only win Red Bull has got. Apart from that, Neil Cheatham has also scored quite consistently in the points as well, so we have to just wait and see about that. Everyone is diving into the pits right now to go on their final laps pretty soon, because the hyper soft tyres are starting to wear out a little bit, and it could be quite difficult in terms of tyre temperature if they don't want to stay out too long, but not as much as Singapore, luckily, thank goodness. HO the only one on the ultra soft tyres at the moment, and very interestingly enough, everyone's in the pits right now, so they're all pitting roughly at the same time, ready to go on to their last stint, so they must be thinking the same idea as pretty much the rest of the field, as I think Master Berserk and DLG Gamble, the only ones not to set a competitive lap time at the moment. It's very important they get a lap time in right this second, because otherwise they're going to lose it, and Master Berserk, don't think he's retired from the session, so he's not going to set a lap time. And Neil Cheatham has just gone out for his final one, the first to come onto the track. So he's going to get a bit of clean air, so one of them is going to help him move him up the field just a little bit.
Yeah, so we have a bit of a lull in the session right now. Everyone's been out circulating for almost 15 minutes now, getting their iron, getting the track rubbered up, and getting ready for one final push here in qualifying. All heading back into the pits, getting those nice, fresh Hypersofts bolted to the car, ready for that one final push. It looks like you said, Neon, he's rolled the dice, going a little bit early, trying to get some clean track, hoping he doesn't get held up in traffic. It looks like he's the only car on the circuit, but while everyone does sit patiently in the pit lane, except for Neon Trito, and let's run through the order that we do have here heading into the last 3 minutes of this session. Keep in mind, everyone's fastest laps are most likely to come in the next 2.5 minutes, so the times I'm about to read out probably aren't that relevant, but if no one improves, people make mistakes on that one crucial lap, these times could become quite relevant. As it sits right now, it is a Williams front row lockout with Fens on pole position, Greek Master there in second. His championship rival, New Zealand Ryan, is sat there in third with Dominator. He is a wild card, I guess you could say, for this round, not a regular to the series. And Tim Marduk in his final outing in AOR Oceania is sitting there in 5th place. And let me just have a quick look at the gaps if my controller wants to do it. There we go. It's about half a second between pole and New Zealand Ryan at the moment. It's in a second when we get down to Neon Tridome there in 6th place. That's Roscoe Arm, Prez BC and HO. Master Berserk, DLG Gamble not yet set a lap as Neon Tridome is underway on his last flying lap. Well, he has time to get 2 flying laps in, I should say, but it looks like his attempt to get some clean track has led him into the outlap traffic, if you like, as everyone other than Neon Tridome is currently on their outlap.
Yes, and I think Dominator's just gone out as well, so they're about to set their final time for Sector 3. He's looking, they're quite close already, separating between the top 9, so it probably will be the closest qualifying that we've seen in a while, which will be quite nice to see as well. So I wonder what the Williams drivers are going to do. 1/10. I won't be surprised if Greek Master can find a little bit more fouls in his time and try and close up, but the lap time has already been broken from the pole time that was set in season 14, but it was a few seasons ago, so not really that surprised. And a brand new game, the cars will be faster on this game anyway than in real life, and the Mercedes proved to be very well in real life. Obviously, the Williams are doing much better than Mercedes at the moment, as we've got Dominator still on a lap. Yes, he is. Everyone is out on a lap now, so they're all going to get their final few laps in. I'm trying to figure out who's going to be the first to final person to set a lap time. We've got one of the for the Red Bulls just coming out of the pits right now, so he'll probably be one of the last, but he's got to get a lap time pretty soonish as well, as we've got, I think Fens is about to start his final lap. Greek Masters just started, And I think I'm just trying to see, Ben is about to cross the line to set his final lap, so it will be the last of the leading bunch to set a lap, unless we've got people in the midfield. No, it will be Ben, be the last person to cross the line, so we'll watch out for him. But really, we're going to watch out for Codemasters and New Zealand Ryan, who's going to come out on top between those two in terms of position, because in terms of position, you've got to be on the high track position as possible, because the amount of points you score will be crucial for the last few rounds. It's roughly around about 125, 150 points left of the season, and the more wins you probably gain, the better. And Codemasters and Fens hasn't won at all, I don't think, this season. It was very close, and the checkered flag is fallen, so it'll be a last chance for people to get in their laps. And I think DLG Gamble was bottled on his lap, so he's not going to set a competitive lap time, so he just get free tire choice, of course. Probably might go on the ultra softs, as Neil Treedome has retired as well. Dominator's just crossed the line, and we are starting to see more people. I think Codemasters about to approach the final few corners. Let's just follow him. Our championship leader, of course. What lap time is he going to sell? He went a bit wide there, but he did improve by 1/10, a 1:29.7. But Fens is slowing down in a little bit. He's going into the pits. How about Team Marduk? Let's see what he can do with his respective lap time. I haven't seen how fast he's gone. He's hit the curve a little bit towards the final part of that sector, but he comes across the final corner. What lap time is he going to set? He doesn't improve, and he stays P5 in his qualifying session. So, Fens is your pole sitter.
So in the end, that time set from Fens earlier on in the session, which I said probably was going to be improved upon, actually ended up being the pole time. I'm quite surprised he set that lap so early in the session, but Fens holds on to pole position, and I do believe it was a Williams front row lockout. I can't quite see the standings as we sit, but there we go. It is a Williams front row lockout. Fens on pole, Greek Master 99 alongside him. Greek's championship rival, second place in the championship, 10 points separating them. He starts third, that is New Zealand Ryan, of course. Dominator starts from fourth, and it's Tim Marduk and Roscoe Arm on the third row of the grid. Neon Treedome, Prez BC, HO, Master Berserk round out the top 10, of course. Berserk, DLG Gamble not setting lap times, so they should get free choice of tyre at the start of the race and also start on fresh tyres. Everyone on Hypersoft tyres except for HO starting on the Ultra Soft, switching up the strategy just a little bit. How will that play out throughout the race? I'm not too sure.
Yes, we'll just have to find out in terms of varying tyre strategies. But Russia, it will be quite hot, but it does depend on the weather. But it is a dry race, luckily, so it should be a release to the drivers that they won't be using those wet tyres pretty much for this race. And will Team Armada come out on his final race of AOR with a bang, or will he bottle it a little bit? To be honest, most of these guys will be hoping that Ben does his final AOR race and gets some good points for Ferrari, but I don't think he is going to aim for the race victory. I think he's just probably going to help his teammate a little bit more and try and capitalise on some good point finishes that he's got earlier on in the season. He did get a few P5s though in, I think it was Italy and Singapore last week, as we're waiting for the last few drivers to ready up. Obviously it doesn't take that long because they are varying in tyre setup. So we're about to go to the formation lap and seeing where GLG Gamble has chosen for his tyres. It is the Ultra Soft tyre, and that is what the bottom three are choosing their tyres on. They're starting on the Ultra Soft, so they'll be stretching their stints out. But definitely Hypers to Ultras will be the fastest strategy. So let's have a quick look at the pit strategy right now, going up on your screen right now. So starting on the Hypers, most of them, they'll go for around about lap 7 to lap 10 on the set of Ultra Soft tyres and on Hyper Soft tyres, and then they'll go on to the set of Ultras until the end. But if they're starting on the Ultras, then they're going to pit around about lap 16 to lap 18, and that should make it to the end of the race. We've got 27 laps in, so I'm sure that the Hypersoft's last 10 laps, so they're not going to worry about conserving those tyres just a little bit more. So we just have to wait and see what happens. As Fend is leading the field away with Codemasters in second, just to about to start this very intense Russian Grand Prix.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting race. We have Fens on pole. We have the two championship contenders, second and third. Then in fourth and fifth, we have two drivers that aren't concerned about the championship in any way, shape, or form. Dominator is a wild card, and this is Ben's last race for the season. Both of those drivers have nothing to lose going into this race, and the two drivers directly in front of them have everything to lose as they are fighting for this championship. It's going to be interesting to see how this does play out. And then, of course, you've got Fen starting on pole position. Of course, teammate to Greek Master 99. How much is Fen's going to try and help Greek versus run his own race? I guess we're about to find out. The drivers getting towards the end of this formation lap, hopefully getting everything up into the working range temperature-wise and ready to tackle this 27-lap Russian Grand Prix. Just coming around the final corner now, he's about to slot into his grid position. We have 11 cars for this Russian Grand Prix. The bottom three, I believe Jess did say, are running an alternate strategy, starting on the ultra soft tyres, where the top 9 are all starting on the hyper soft tyres that they did qualify on. So they've got a couple laps of wear, but nonetheless, the strategy does look quite simple. One stop hypers to ultras. But here we go. All the cars are almost on the grid, ready for this Russian Grand Prix. Waiting for the light. It looks like the McLaren is now in position. Here we go. The lights are now coming on before the drivers. We have 5 red lights. And it's lights out, and away we go. This Russian Grand Prix is underway. It looks like a good start from one of the Red Bulls further back in the pack, but a great start from Fens off pole position. He storms into the lead as we head through turn number 1, and now the run down to turn number 2. Greek is going defensive. Ryan goes to the outside. Greek's got dominated right in behind me. Almost looks up the inside of his teammate. Ryan sends it around the outside of turn number 2, and he gets that position potentially slightly illegally. It looked like he did cut the curb, but turn 1's always chaotic, so we'll ignore that for now. As through the long turn number 3, we do go. Fens leads the way. Ryan and Greek are there next. That looks like Dominator and Tim Marduk, the two drivers who have nothing to lose, are going wheel to wheel through turn 4. Now into turn 5. There's contact. Ben is going into a spin. He gets collected by a half, but that's actually kind of straightened him out and minimized the damage from that contact. But I did see front wing go. I think it was probably from the Haas, not the Ferrari, the way that contact did happen. I could be wrong, but not the way Ben wanted to start his final race here in AOR Oceania. But Fens leads the way, but there's a Ferrari in between the two Williams.
Yes, not the best start from Ben on this final race. He basically collected a few guys from around about turn 5 or turn 6, but it is quite common for some of these guys to do that. It does get quite hot around here for Ben, so he's got to conserve it a little bit more, and probably I think one of the Houses will probably go into the pit, which won't be the best strategy for them, because obviously they were hoping to make it to the end, but unfortunately due to that incident that will have to go down lower down the field. Yeah, it was the Haas, because Roscoe Ramos dropped it down into P11 there, so Ben, he was trying to catch up to Dominator, but he just lost it there, as Dominator still manages to hold on to P4. We're on lap 2 right now, as I think Team Amado was trying to make another move around the outside of Dominator there, but this time he made it work a bit better.
I think Dominator addressed that position. He felt that he was at fault for that collision. He's handed the position back to Tim Marduk. I think that's what's happened there, as the Mercedes pulled to the side down the pit straight.
Okay, thanks for clearing that out. That's what some of the guys do if they do get in trouble with that. But the top 3 are pretty much closing their neck and neck right now. The two Williams are now P1 and P2. And whilst that battle was happening, Green Master did manage to get past Fens, but probably because Green Master's got a championship to contend with, and he's the closest pretty much between him and New Zealand Ryan. And Fens is around about 79 points now, so Fens has got to get a lot, I think pretty much win every single race in order to stand a chance of winning. So I think he's going to pretty much help his teammate out. But look at, he's got New Zealand Ryan right on the back of him as well then, so it'll be interesting to see as well. We've got Masters there catching up to HO as well. So battles happening all the way through the field as we are heading towards potentially lap 3 of this Grand Prix, and Master Berserk probably may seem to be struggling on probably less grip or something compared to some of the other tyres, because obviously Hypersofts are a much better tyre to be with right now. No DRS at the moment. It will be enabled around about lap 3, and at the moment all they've got to rely on is slipstream. I think if Fens is in positioning right now, he'll probably get the move done if there was DRS enabled. As Great Master's already setting the benchmark at the moment, already starting to pull away from Fens, but Fens is not giving up. He's chasing him. It's going to be a very long run into turn 1, but unfortunately he's been a little bit too further back to make the move. There's still a lot more opportunities to get that done, and I think we've got Dominator catching up to Ben again, so that's not going to be over for them. And Ben and Neil Cheatham just got the first few penalties of this session, so it's not a way to kick off the Russian Grand Prix with those type of penalties, I must say. I have watched a few Russian races before. A lot of penalties are given out around here. Track limits are usually quite harsh, but it's very important that you do get it right. And we do see a few people cut a few corners, in particular towards the final few corners and turn 3 as well. So I wonder if they're going to keep it conservative, some of the guys at the back, or will they just afford aggressive moves? Because some of these guys, most of these guys are out of the running now, so it's more about different run for them and trying to get up into the points. Now, there's only two DRS zones, like I said earlier on in the track back, so only 2 chances to get proper overtakes done, and not that much overtaking opportunities, but the top 3 guys are definitely showing that this could be a chance to overtake pretty soon. I think they're about to approach the first few DRS straight, so this could be their chance now. And we've still got Dominator on the back of Team Malik as well, so things shaping up here in Russia.
Yeah, here we go, on to lap number 4, and the top 3 are still really, really close as we head onto the pit straight, onto the DRS straight, through the little kink at turn number 1. You barely even realize that is a corner in modern day Formula 1 cars, and now the big drag down to turn 2, where you do get the advantage of DRS if you are within a second of the car ahead, and it looks like none of these drivers were quite close enough to turn that DRS advantage into an overtake. And just going back a few laps, it's really unfortunate that we don't have a replay system here in F1 2018 with the spectator mode, because I was a bit preoccupied with the redressing that was happening with the position between Ben and Dominator, that somehow Greekmaster jumped from 3rd all the way into 1st, and unfortunately I'm not too sure how that's happened. We've got a Williams 1-2 here with the championship leader in 1st. He has his teammate in 2nd, in between him and his main championship rival in New Zealand, Ryan. It's going to be interesting to see how this race does play out with the tactics, especially with Fens in between the 2 championship contenders and as a teammate of one of those championship contenders. Now, Jess did mention just a minute ago, this is definitely a race we're going to have to try and keep track of the penalties. It's definitely easy to corner cut around here at Russia with all the tarmac runoff areas. Drivers can sort of be get this false sense of security, push a little bit harder because of all this extra runoff space, and sometimes they take a few too many liberties with the track limit. So I'm going to try my hardest to keep track of the penalties as we do go through this Grand Prix, because I think, unfortunately, as much we don't want to see it, but it is going to be a big story of this Russian Grand Prix. But here we go, out of the final corner, out onto the pit straight we go one more time. Fens and Ryan are going to get the advantage of DRS and Slipstream. Berserk picking up a 3-second time penalty. I'll write that down on a pad of paper in a minute. But it looks like these gaps are just a little bit too big at the moment to sort of get any real fighting. Close enough just to get that toe and that DRS, but they're struggling a little bit maybe with the dirty air, especially through these fast long corners like turn number 3, where you get that aero wash off the car in front, and you just don't have the same downforce, don't have that same front grip, and you just can't quite take the same speed as the car ahead of you. As we have a yellow flag, and Master Berserk has retired from the session. And where has this happened? I'm riding on board with the Haas behind him in the hope I can see his car off the circuit somewhere. I have absolutely no clue what has happened there to Master Berserk, but our first casualty of this Russian Grand Prix is the Force India, and we're now down to 10 runners.
That means if you're finishing pretty much in this race, you will get some points, which will probably be a relief for some of these guys, and maybe not a relief for Master Berserk, as he's pretty much scored a lot of DNS pretty much this season already. Not the best of seasons compared to last season, where he was in the championship fight this time last season, but unfortunately he didn't quite get to grips with the no line situation, so that's why hopefully he could have a better race next time about in a few weeks, because obviously I do believe we do have a break week either next week or the week after, I'm not entirely sure, but I think we're looking for Dominator and Team Amada to try and make another move. Now I think Dominator is going into the pits. That is why he's the first one to make the pit stop. A bit earlier than we thought. Usually people would come in around about the end of lap 7, but I think it is quite commonplace to pit anyway. So the first ones to blink, but the leading bunch haven't pitted yet, so they will be pitting in the next few laps or so, with the Williams and the Ferraris alternating strategies, and I wonder who is going to pit first out there. It does vary race on race. First, we did see the likes of Greekmaster pit first to gain track position a few races ago, and then the next race we may see Fens. But it can change race to race. It's like real life with Bottas and Hamilton. They do tend to switch on who gets to pit first and get that track position, or they might decide in the party, because I bet Greekmaster and Fens are in a party, and obviously Ryan and Team Armada are in a party together, so they're working together to make sure they don't get hauled up in the same pit box. They don't have different pit box like in a endurance race you've seen in other sims. You really got to make sure you know what your teammate is doing, because otherwise it can cause chaos. Dominator's gone on to an interesting strategy actually. He's gone on to a set of the soft tyres, which I thought the Ultras will be a faster tyre, but he thinks that the Ultras won't go to the end, so we'll just have to find out soon as well. We know the softs do go for quite a long time, so we will expect to go to the end of the race. Oh no, Fender's got a time penalty. That's not going to help him whatsoever, so he's got to be 3 seconds clear, and I think due to that penalty, Fens, I think, is being forced into the pits. No, not Fens, it's Greekmaster. Sorry, my bad. Greekmaster goes into the pits. I was right in Greekmaster going first this week. Both the Ferraris, I believe, are staying out. Yes, they are. So I wonder if it's just a strategy for them, a gambling strategy for Ryan and Team Armada, or will it be a much better strategy? We'll just have to find out. So Fens will probably pit at the end of lap 7 then, so we can possibly try and stay ahead, or go ahead of Greekmaster to get that overcut working, or will Greekmaster say? We'll have to find out. Greekmaster's on the softs as well. So I thought the Hypersofts and the Ultras would be faster, but maybe they're not. Maybe they think the Ultras are not going to be suitable for them for the rest of this race. We'll just have to find out.
Yeah, I did talk to New Zealand. Ryan has also gotten a 3-second time penalty. I've just got a little chart on a piece of paper. I'm trying to track all these penalties as they do pop up, so we have a full picture of the race as we do get to the dying stages of this race. But going back to the strategy in this race, I did talk to a handful of drivers before this race, and I also just seen someone in the chat has just reminded me Greekmaster got a 5-second stop and go coming into the pit lane. I think it was for corner cutting. He must have cut one of the corners as he did go into the pit entrance. So he's lost 5 seconds in the pit lane from the race lead. Not too sure what he did to deserve that, but that is 5 seconds that Greek has dropped further back down the road. But he does have a slight undercut. But let's get back to the strategy. The point I was trying to make, I did talk to a few different drivers about what the strategy was going to be in this race. A lot of them said it's going to be Hypers to the Ultras. And I realized I've just written down Ultras to softs for everyone when they actually started on the Hypers. So let's just adjust that. There's only 2 pit stops that I've recorded. So cool. They're on the Hypers. Everyone was saying you're going to go to the Ultras using the 2 softest compound tyres we do have. Now, it's a 27-lap race. People are saying the pit window was around lap 7 or so, and the Ultras could just last 20 laps. It was a bit of a stretch as Ben picks up his second 3-second time penalty of the race already. Things not going to plan for Team Marduk. New Zealand Ryan also in the lane. Let's see how much this penalty for Greek has hurt him. He comes round turn number 1. There you can see New Zealand Ryan coming out of the pit lane. It looks like the Ferrari might have just jumped him. Drag race down to turn number 1, but the Ferrari has the inside line, but Greek has his tyres up to working temperature through turn number 3. He's getting out of the dirty air, going to the outside. Can he get a nice run around here and up the inside of turn number 4? He thinks about it, but he thinks better of it, keeping that championship in mind, and it looks like Ryan has jumped Greek in the pit stop phase, and that was the end of lap number 7 that New Zealand Ryan came in, and he has gone onto the ultra soft tyres instead of the soft tyres. So now we see the conflicting strategy that I was just trying to explain here, perfectly demonstrated between our championship rivals New Zealand Ryan and Greekmaster 99.
Yes, the New Zealand Ryan getting the tyre strategy to pretty much absolute T. It is the fastest hyper soft to ultra soft, and I wonder, is he going to gain more of an advantage to Greekmaster? But Greekmaster's 5-second penalty did definitely cost him. If he didn't get that 5-second penalty, he would have comfortably go ahead of New Zealand Ryan, so that's definitely hurt him as well. As we've got Fens and Team Murdoch going into the pits as well. They're probably going to be behind the 2 leading pair of New Zealand Ryan and Greekmaster. We'll just have to find out. Team Murdoch and Ben's going on to a set of the ultra soft tyres, so looks like only 2 people have opted for the alternate strategy for the soft. So pretty much everyone is doing what the pit strategy has said. So New Zealand Ryan and Greekmaster are about to cross the final corner. Fens is coming towards the pit entry now. And Fens, I think, gets the cut, and he's taking the lead. So he's got that cut right, and cut both Ryan and Greekmaster. Ben unfortunately didn't get that cut right, and he's down into 8th. So what a great pit stop from Fens. We've known that he almost got that overcut right in Italy, but obviously there was a battle with New Zealand Ryan, which went superbly well between these two. No, it wasn't Italy, my bad, it was Belgium. And he got it working. So I think Fens has got, pretty much the same penalties as Greek Masters. So at the moment, Fens in the lead of this Grand Prix, and he really wants to get that first win, and that is his great opportunity to close a point up to New Zealand Ryan. All Greek Masters worried about is New Zealand Ryan anyway, so as long as New Zealand Ryan is behind the Williams, that's all we cares about.
Yeah, that penalty for Greek Master coming into the pit lane. I've seen a few people in chat saying it might have been for speeding, but I thought when I read it, it had to do with corner cutting, so I'm not too sure. I'll talk to him after the race. If he ends up on the podium, potentially we can ask him in the interviews. But that has really hurt him, because Ryan was starting to drop back off Fens and Greek heading into that pit stop phase, and now Fens has 2.5 seconds over Ryan, and then Greek is back behind his championship rival, currently fighting over 4th place. Of course, we have a couple cars still out there who are out of sequence, including Neon Tridome, who has just come into the pits for his first and only pit stop of the race, moving this lead group up into a battle for 3rd. Will become a battle for 1st, as New Zealand Ryan sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. His pace wasn't that great in that first stint, if you want to call it, in those first 7 laps. But his pace seems to be coming on a little bit better now. He's got it down to 2.1 up to Fens, and it looks like Greek is actually struggling to go with him, as there's a change in position between Dominator and Tiamat Marduk, and Ben picks up his 3rd 3-second time penalty on the race, and he's already served a 5-second stop-go for speeding in the pit lane. His final Oceania appearance really is not going to plan for Ben right now.
I think he just wants to have fun, to be honest. I think the way he cut that corner, I think, was around about turn 3 once again. I'm not sure how many penalties he's got. He's got to be careful though to avoid a disqualification, but I hope it's not a road to disqualification race, because it looks like it is for Ben at this moment in time. We'll just have to find out, as we've got DLG Gamble and HO still waiting in the pits at the moment. But now Tiamat Marduk is closing up to Greek Master on an alternate strategy. Ultrasofts are the faster tyre, so probably, if I was them, probably Tiamat Marduk would get the better run on Greek Master. Tiamat Marduk had a bit of a lock up there towards a little bit of that final sector, but I think Greek Master is managing to pull away. His car is possibly designed for better straight line speed, whereas Ben is more designed on the corners. You can change setups like that, and due to the fact there was a dry qualifying and a dry race, they could pretty much have the same setup for all of them and not compromise on their pole laps like they did so far. Praise BC all the way down in P10 now. I think there's a few cars starting to lap him as well, so not the best start he wants to do for this Grand Prix, but he's probably going to go to around about lap 10 on those tyres, which is probably the near tyre life that he's going to manage on these tyres, but you can compromise just a little bit on those tyres. That's why Prez BC is down there in a lower position. But watch out on Ben in these first couple of corners of sector 1. Is he going to make a move on Greek Master? He's not there quite yet, but finding a few more attempts per corner, and it'll be interesting to see what happens here. We've got Dominator not that far behind either on the socks, but I think he's a little bit further behind to do that at this moment. But Fen is already starting to pull away from New Zealand Ryan, so definitely that pit stop for him has definitely worked out to compromise that. And Tiamat Marduk was looking like he was going to make a move there, but Greek Master just defends. He's going to try and make a move on the right hand side, and he does it. The Ultras definitely helped him a little bit there, as Tiamat Marduk up into P5. I don't think Greek Master challenged there, because he knows Tiamat Marduk has had multiple amount of penalties there, and Jeff has probably told him on his radio, but probably Greek Master has gotten on. And HO's out of the session, and I think there was a collision with Gamble as well as he spun it towards the final corner. So we're down, pretty much down 3 runners at the moment. So I think we're down to 9 or 8 drivers in this Grand Prix already. So pretty much Fend is now taking not just Netley, but the whole lead of this Grand Prix. Didn't quite see what happened with HO, but I did see what happened with Gamble. It was a massive spun, and I think those two collided with each other. I think Gamble will probably have to pit. Well, he hasn't pitted at all, so he will probably have to pit for a front wing, which will compromise him on his pit stop. So that was unfortunate for Gamble there, backing a little bit under the pressure. So he may have to pit a few laps earlier than he would on those ultra soft tyres. The only one on that alternate strategy apart from Moscow Army did pit a few laps ago. So what unfortunate for Gamble and Adrian to be caught up there. Our second retirement of the race so far.
Yeah, I did see his car in at the wall on the exit of the third last corner. Front left tyre had been plonked off there, and it looked like there was collision with DLG Gamble. As soon as I saw the yellow flags, I cut to DLG Gamble. He had a spin, and at the same location. So there must have been a crash between the two race leaders, which is really, really unfortunate, but they weren't the net race leaders. They were yet to stop. It hasn't actually really affected our lead for the race, despite them being in the race lead at the time of their collision. Once DLG Gamble does go into the pit lane for his one compulsory stop of the race, Fens will retake the lead. Now, it's really interesting to see these strategies play out. Before the race, Greek did tell me he was going to go for this strategy where he went onto the softs instead of the ultras. He thought that would be a slightly better strategy, but he did tell me there was a risk involved in that strategy. He was going to be slower in the early phase of the stint, not only because the compound's a bit harder, and when those ultras are working at their best, they're going to be naturally a faster tyre than the softs. There's also a longer warm-up period for those soft tyres at the start of the stint, so it would take a few more laps than it would for the ultra softs. And we're seeing, I guess, that risk element play into this race with Tiamat Marduk going for the ultra soft strategy, the same as his teammate, and he's actually got track position over Greekmaster now, up into what is currently third place as Gamble does finally go into the pits. It does look like, no, he didn't actually go into the pits, he got passed by Fens. I do apologize there. What will become third place, I should say, but Ben, he's picked up his 4th penalty of this race. That is 12 seconds worth of corner cutting penalties, plus he's already served 5-second stop go in the pit lane. This race really not going to plan for Ben in terms of his own result, but his strategy has played him into perfect position if he wants to help his teammate in this championship situation, because his main rival, Greekmaster, is behind Tiamat Marduk, and Ryan, of course, is in front of him. So it's going to be interesting to see how this does play out, as many people are adding me in the chat, and I'm being told to check the chat. I'll read that in a second. I keep seeing the orange pop up. But this is going to be interesting to see how it does play out. Greek thinks he's on the better strategy, but he acknowledged that there was this risk in his strategy, and I guess that weakness in his strategy is being exploited right now by the Ferrari team, and his 5-second stop-go penalty isn't helping him either, and he's struggling to keep up with the ultra soft drivers in the Ferrari at the moment. But what's he going to be able to do when his tyres come good later on in the stint relative to those ultra softs, which of course are 2 steps softer? Of course, are the middle tyre here, as we see DLG Gamble off the road. No idea what's happened, but the McLaren is not having a good time of things. What just happened there, Jess? Did you see it?
I think Tiamat Marduk run into the back of DLG Gamble just a little bit, and DLG Gamble was forced a little bit off the track, but he did manage to save it a little bit, so it wasn't that much. It might have been a race against him, not sure. I don't know who to blame for that, but I was not surprised with what happened there. But it's good looking from bad to worse for DLG Gamble now, as he's going to go into the pit, and he's pretty much going to go into last place as well, with Presby a lap down. So not the race he wanted, but he is still going to get some points anyway, so who wouldn't hurt, and he's not going to give up anyway. So very unfortunate for him, as I think we've got Gamble still trying to, I'm just going to see, has he got damage? Doesn't look like he does. It is quite hard to see with his McLaren livery all nicely polished up. So I think he's all right. He got away with it I think probably just a bit of a minor damage, but his tyres definitely have lost it due to that spun a few moments ago with Atro as well. So if he doesn't pit now, he's probably going to have a puncture in the next few laps as well. So we'll just have to find out as well, as the gaps are starting to decrease a little bit. Not much battles going at the moment. Ben in third place after what just happened with DLG Gamble, because obviously DLG Gamble wasn't fighting for track position. It was mainly just to try and get to the pit and stuff like that. But speaking of Tiamat Marduk, actually, probably due to the amount of penalty he's got, he's probably given up in terms of winning his own race, and probably trying to hold up Greekmaster and the guys behind him, not score as many points. Because Fenn is right up in the lead, but if Ryan and Tiamat Marduk stay where they are right now, then that's going to put him to some good stead. But unfortunately, due to those penalties, though, Greekmaster's going to be ahead of him anyway. So maybe the penalties have definitely gone into fruition. And we've got a yellow flag in sector 3. Oh, that's Roscoe in the hat on the final part of sector 3. The same corner that DLG Gamble and Atro lost it a few moments ago. And yes, he's gone into the pits right now. Almost spun it in the pits, actually. His car just jumped a little bit there. Not quite sure what happened with him, but not the best he could have hoped for this Russia Grand Prix. But he's going to, I think, go on to a set of softs to the end, or probably a bit of hypers. We'll just have to find out depending on his damage, because we weren't expecting the ultra soft runners to pit to around about lap 16. So I wonder if it's going to be a bit of a push to get those hypers to the end. We'll just have to find out. And nope, he's going on to a set of ultras again. So you will have to pit again, because we might have started on the hypers actually. So it does count as changing compounds, because obviously if you're on the same tyre compound for the whole race, if you don't change, you will get disqualification. So not entirely sure if Oscar started on the hype. Yeah, I think he did start on the hypers, my bad. So that's why he did what he did and not go on to the set of hypersoft. So yes, the ultras will definitely go to the end there. The New Zealand Ryan not that far behind Team Lamar. Is Team Lamar going to let him through, or are they going to battle? We'll just have to wait and see.
So we're just over halfway through this Russian Grand Prix, and let's have a little overview of where the race does stand right now. VFens in the Williams is out in the lead, 2.3 second gap over Team Marduk in the Ferrari. Then it's New Zealand Ryan in third. Now the top three all on identical strategies, maybe a lap or two separating their pit lap, as Team Marduk gets another time penalty. Now I did say at the start of the race that Team Marduk's going to be coming into this race with a sort of carefree attitude, because if you didn't know, he's moving to the United Kingdom and this is going to be his last race here in AOR Oceania, and that carefree attitude has led to him being involved in 2 collisions, getting 15 seconds of corner cutting penalties and a 5-second stop go. So his race isn't necessarily going to plan in that aspect, but somehow he's running second in the race. I did think he was just going to sort of sit in there behind Ryan now that his own race is kind of ruined, because the championship battle is obviously between New Zealand Ryan and Greek Master. If you didn't know, Greek is leading the championship by 10 points as Dominator now gets a time penalty. There's a lot of penalties going on. I'm trying my best to track these so we can keep up to date with them throughout the course of this race. So let's go back to what we were saying. Championship rivals, New Zealand Ryan, Greek Master 99. Greek did get a 5-second stop go for corner cutting coming into the pit lane. He was leading the race and that lost him 2 positions and actually dropped him in behind New Zealand Ryan. Now we have this interesting situation between these championship rivals going for different strategies. As you can see right now, Ryan is on the ultra soft tires, whereas Greek is on the soft tires, 2 steps harder. Both started on the hypersofts. Greek pitted a couple laps earlier. Now I talked to Greek before the race. He thinks this is the better strategy, but there is a weakness in his strategy, that he's slow in the first half of this second stint. But when these ultra softs start to die, especially towards the end of the race, because he said it's going to be a push for these guys to make it to the end of the race, he is really going to come good. But he has lost that track position. Not too sure how that is all going to play out. It's definitely a battle to keep our eyes on, as these Ferrari boys are quite close and they are potentially catching up to the race leader Fens just a little bit. Of course, those three all on the same strategy. It's just Greek and Dominator who have gone for that alternate strategy, being on the soft. So we just have to keep our eye on the 4th and 5th place car and see how their pace does go throughout this race, and see what point they actually become quicker than the 3 in front of them and start to close them in, and if they'll have enough time to actually catch them properly and make an overtake and make this alternate strategy work.
Yes, I wonder. I think the ultra softs do start to run out towards the end of the race as well, and I think that's what Greek Master was hoping the top 3 guys would plan to experience or something. Not plan to experience, hope to experience. Greek Master hoping to experience, I mean, for that. So I think that's probably why he's still there. He's dropping around about a few tenths per lap at the moment, so he's losing a bit of time on that aspect. But as soon as these guys get to the end, he's gonna hope that they close in a little bit and Greek Master could take the win. But it is not over for Greek Master yet. He's still running good pace on those soft runners, trying to catch up to New Zealand Ryan, but the top 3 are running head to tail. I think we've got someone that's ghosted. I think that's Prez BC. I think Prez BC is disconnected, I believe. So that's unfortunate for him. Hopefully he can go back to the race then. But New Zealand Ryan already starting to close up onto his teammate, and teammate Marley almost in DRS range of Fens. This is definitely going to put up at the moment, even though teammate Marley is probably going to be around about in 5th or 6th place at the end of this race due to penalties. If he wants to get that track position to the race, then that'll probably help New Zealand Ryan a little bit as well. Maybe he'll concentrate staying in second and hold up Fens a little bit more, so New Zealand Ryan can get the move done. We'll just have to find out. Also, Neil Tudome doing quite well in 6th position, 1.1 seconds separated between him and Dominator to the midfield battles. Dominator, a reserve driver, Neil Tudome, and midfield driver still going to get some points today. As Greenmaster gets another 3-second time penalty. I think it is second, I believe, Fitcho. I think you're getting all the penalties, I believe, so I'm not entirely sure. But
let me just check. I think that's actually his first, according to what I have written down for Greekmaster.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
Other than the 5-second stop go that he got in the pit lane, this is the only 3-second penalty that he's got that he hasn't actually served. That's going to be added on at the end of the race, I do believe.
Oh, okay, yeah, thanks for that. I thought the 5 seconds would carry, but obviously if it was unserved it would, but yeah, that was...
It was served in this pit stop.
Oh, right, I didn't really see that. So Greekmaster had his 3-second time penalty to his name now, but I think, I'm just seeing New Zealand Ryan's got about two, I think, or 3, I'm not entirely sure. I need to make track of penalties myself, to be honest, otherwise I will lose them. But Greekmaster could get the edge on New Zealand Ryan. We'll just have to find out. He's around about 2.9 seconds behind him, so it's going to be tense. As all Bender's just gone wide in turn 3. That's allowing Ben to close up. Bender stopped it a little bit there as well in turn 3. He was around about 2 tenths behind Ben's, but Ben's getting a little bit more straight line speed in turn 5 right here. Team at Marder clipping the curve a little bit, and he's trying to see if he can make this move. Ryan dropping off from Team Armada as well, as he's around about 1 second behind him at the moment. But I think Ben is finding a little bit more pace on circuit at this moment in time. Team Armada's tyres are finding a little bit more grip than Ben's, probably because Ben is locking up a little bit on the corners. We'll just have to find out. It is quite tricky on these final couple of corners to get that overtake done, but the DRS is now open. One of the only corners you can overtake on this circuit, as well as turn 3. He's trying to make a move down the right-hand side, and it looks like Ben has got the move done. Oh, he's gone wide. He's gone wide, and nope, he's still got the position though. And Ben takes the lead, but unfortunately, due to penalties, is not going to be the lead of this race. As Ben is still in the lead due to the fact I think Tim Amaliga's got so many penalties to his name. But to be honest, he doesn't really care about what position he gets. If his last race is not going to do much speed at the moment, he just wants to get a high position penalty possible, so he doesn't drop that much. He's going to get some points anyway, so what's more to hurt. So what a good move from Ben. Almost lost it towards that penultimate few corners, but just saved it there, and he's now in the lead of this Grand Prix. On track though, but not on penalty. Well, not on penalties though.
Yeah, that was a good move there from Tim Marduk to get himself up into the lead of this race, but like Jess said, he's not going to stay there, because the penalty situation as it does stand right now, Ben has 5 3-second time penalties. That is 15 seconds worth of penalties. Fenn's there in second. He has 1 3-second time penalty. Obviously, a 3 seconds worth of penalties. So as it stands, Ben is going to end up a long way back behind Fenn's unless he has some sort of absolutely blistering pace through the last 7 laps, or 7.5 laps of this Grand Prix. I doubt he's going to be able to pull away to that extent without picking up even further penalties. We have New Zealand Ryan still sitting there in 3rd place, but importantly, he is still ahead of his championship rival, Greekmaster 99. Greek has risked it on an alternate strategy, going for the soft tyres instead of the ultra softs in the second half of this race, and hope that he'll be quicker in the second half of this stint when the tyres won't be so worn and you'll be able to fight back. And I would have thought we would already be into that period where the soft tyres would be getting quicker than the ultras and it would be starting to fight back and catching up to New Zealand Ryan, but it just doesn't seem like he has the pace in that Williams to get back up to the back of that Ferrari and try to make that move and get the points advantage back in his favour. Of course, as the championship does stand prior to this race, Greekmaster leads by 10 points over New Zealand Ryan, but with Ryan finishing ahead potentially on track, that lead will be cut down a little bit. And on the the penalty situation, I meant to say, from what I've tracked so far throughout this race, they both have 1 3-second. So Ben has now 18 seconds worth of time penalties, but going back to what I was saying, I believe Greek and Ryan both have 1 3-second time penalty. I could be wrong there. I was a bit distracted by some old beef in the chat, someone trying to drum stuff up that I've forgotten about, but thankfully our good AOR mods in the chat were able to sort that out, keeping the chat on topic and focused on this race. I do very much appreciate them, and if you do want to support everyone here at AOR running this stream, you can donate. But back to this race, to my knowledge, they're even on the penalty situation between Ryan and Greekmaster right now, so it looks like advantage Ryan. But Greek, as I've been talking, he's actually pulled in the gap by 7/10. Are the tides starting to turn right at this minute with 6.5 laps left of this Russian Grand Prix?
I was saying it would get to that point eventually, and that's what Greek Master was hoping it was going to happen. It probably might happen actually. So it just goes to show whatever strategy that you go on, the risk of going on those hypers quite early on probably risked it a little bit, and probably they should have waited until around about lap 8 and lap 9, and then probably their tyres wouldn't have worn out too much, and that's why Greek Master is starting to close in. I did see Fens struggle a little bit on his tyre wear as well, as he was weaving a little bit in some corners as you were speaking. So Fens is definitely starting to struggle, but I think the two Ferrari boys are not doing too bad at the moment. But it looks like Fens is always trying to catch up to Team Marlix, so not all is lost there at this moment. So we've got 4 or 5 laps to go of this Russian Grand Prix, and it's definitely played havoc, the strategy in terms of that, and I think Dominator's in 5th place as well, so he's in a good position at this moment in time, as Greek Master has just lost it a little bit in towards I think it was turn 3, the sector 2 again, so he lost it a little bit there, but luckily he recovered ever so slightly. Fens is still in DRS race to get up to Team Marlix, but still not quite enough to get that move done. But Team Marlix is still going to get some glory anyway, even if he's still going to get the win on track, even without penalties. Fens' tyres are starting to rubber out just a little bit. Is it too little, too late for the Williams driver? But I don't think if he stays where he is right now, possibly he can still hold on to that race victory. But we're starting to see a few more lockups from Fens that we usually do. But I think Fens did pit quite late, so I was quite shocked actually. I thought Ryan would start to be struggling, but no, Fens is more struggling than Ryan. So that means Ryan is starting to close up on the Fens as well. But maybe Fens is doing it on purpose, so Ryan and Greek Master can catch up, and possibly Greek Master can overtake both of them and possibly get the race win. Strategy is definitely coming to play on these last opening laps. There's a lot of table turning in the Williams garage as to what is happening right now for these final few laps, and already Greek Masters catching up to New Zealand Ryan. Greek Masters tyres is definitely helping out here. Oh, that was a corner cut from Greek Master. That was probably a warning, I think, for him. Greek Master had to give that position to New Zealand Ryan, and New Zealand Ryan still holds on to 3rd place, but he managed to find 2 attempts. He's still going to find the next DRS straight towards the start of sector 3 to get that move done, but a clumsy move from Greek Master, just lost that position there for, I think it was turn 3 again. A lot of people getting caught out in the turn 3 instance today, but wow, Greek Master having better pace on the softs than we would have liked, so this is going to get very, very interesting between the 2 championship contenders. Oh boy.
4.5 laps to go of this Russian Grand Prix. Our championship leaders, New Zealand Ryan and Greek Master 99, going hammer and tong on the circuit. Greek pulls to the outside with the advantage of the DRS down into this heavy braking zone, but the Ferrari's got the inside line. Greek trying to cut back for a bit of a switchback line, trying to get the better exit, but the track goes left and he ends up in a tricky position there. Traction very difficult out of that corner, and he has to sit in behind that Ferrari for a few more corners. This is a great battle, and I expect it continue to be really, really entertaining. Of course, if we think back 2 rounds, we've already seen some very, let's say, robust racing between our 2 championship rivals. There's a battle between their teammates, Tim Marduk and Fens, for the race lead. We're not focused on that. Penalties will decide that one, whereas these 2 are equal on penalties, so this is an out-and-out race. It'll go as it is on the track. There's barely enough space left up the inside, but Greek Master 99, Ryan doesn't want to leave him any. There's contact, and Greek is forced off the track. They're both off the track coming out of turn number 2, and somehow Ryan holds on to that position. Dominator picking up another penalty. I just want to note that one down really, really quickly. Very, very robust racing there, as now they're going at it yet again. Ryan goes defensively, forces the Williams to the outside, but Greek can't do anything there around the outside. He's going to have to sit and wait a little bit longer. But going back to that run down into turn 2, Ryan left just enough space for Greek. Oh, he's looking up the inside of this left-hander. There's not going to be space there, and Ryan turns in contact, and they're both somehow gotten through there unscathed, as now we go onto another DRS straight. We're about to see this all happen one more time. The Williams gets the DRS flap open in the slipstream of that Ferrari. I'm not sure he's quite close enough, but I don't think Greg is going to be in the best move after the way Ryan has treated him. Is he going to launch it? No, he actually thinks better of it. He shows his nose, but he doesn't completely launch it. But going back to the turn 2 situation, Ryan left a car's width up the inside of the straight, but by the time we got to the apex, he just didn't respect Greek being there at all. I couldn't quite tell if he was far enough up the inside, so I'm not going to cast any judgment on that incident. They both got through there unscathed. If it goes to the stewards, it goes to the stewards. Thankfully, I'm not the steward and I don't have to think about that, but here we go. Round number 2, onto the pit straight. We're starting the 3rd last lap. Greek Master has the DRS. He's right up the back of that Ferrari. He pulls to the outside through turn number 1. We do go. The DRS flap is now open side by side, and it looks like Greek has gotten that done. A nice run out of the final corner. Without DRS, Ryan can't do anything, and Greek finally takes 3rd position.
Yes, what a superb move from Greek there, capitalising on his mistakes and getting a positive mindset going, and on the way into 3rd place. So maybe we were gambling a little bit on the softs. I did have my doubts on whether the soft strategy was going to work, but Greek Master definitely playing their cards right at the moment. And to be honest, the cause of Greek Master being ahead of New Zealand Ryan was the fact when New Zealand Ryan pitted earlier than we thought. The ultras are starting to run out, and that's what's causing him to lose a bit of time between the front runners already, and that's what's caused him to be in this position, and Greek Master to gain a little bit more time. So maybe if Ryan pitted a few laps later, and this probably wouldn't have happened, and he probably would have comfortably trying to close up to Fens there. So probably not the best from New Zealand Ryan, but now we know when the best time to pit. Probably some of these guys who are watching from the European streams will probably know when to pit now after what has happened, and probably around lap 8 or 9, I reckon, or 10. More likely than instead of lap 7, because lap 7 is a little bit of a gamble strategy when they do start to run out. We've got Neon Trito catching up to Dominator as well in the Mercedes. That was a tasty battle as well, but we're now going on to the penultimate lap. Team Armada still leading this Grand Prix, but not on penalties, as Fens is looking like he's going to get his first win of the season. He's going to try and make a move launching into the turn 3, but unfortunately didn't quite work out. But he's going to try and get the switch back. Fens still stays behind him, not challenging too much at the moment due to the penalties. And it looks like Fens almost got the move done, but some great defending from Ben, and that has forced him into 2nd, but he's not giving up. He's going to launch it once again. No contact made from those two, so clean racing from the both of them. I think Team Armada doesn't want to get disqualification, so I think he's going to try and drive cleanly from now on, and I think all that happens is I think he wants to have fun, and it looks like he's having fun with this battle. They're almost getting hold off by traffic. Luckily, Fred's PC is ghosted, so that's going to be tight as well then. I think Greek Master's already pulling away from New Zealand Ryan, so New Zealand Ryan's tyres are definitely starting to run out already in this Russian Grand Prix, so pretty much New Zealand Ryan's chance of a race victory is pretty much over in terms of points. So that's going to do well in Greek Master's favour, and we could see a Williams 1-2 at this rate, as Fens is finding some more time. He's going to get advantage in the DRS straight. Team Armada going to have DRS straight, unfortunately, but I wonder if Fens is going to challenge, or is he going to stay where he is, knowing that if he stays where he is now, he's going to win this race anyway. Only time will tell. We're going on to the final lap of this Grand Prix, lap 27 out of 27. Ben is already starting to pull away already then, as Fens has got the DRS straight. He's a bit too further back to make the move, launch the move into turn 1. I don't think he's going to challenge it as of yet, so I think Fens is going to sit quite comfortably in 3rd, knowing that he's going to win the race anyway.
Yeah, these cars are quite close on the circuit, but I think it is all done and dusted with the amount of penalties that Team Armada does also have. And I've also noticed Dominator is catching up to New Zealand Ryan really, really quickly. Of course, Dominator, same strategy as Greek. Ryan's struggling now, but you got to remember Dominator does have 6 seconds worth of penalties more than Ryan does. So even if he does get that position in this last lap, that is not going to make a difference to the finishing orders. We have half a lap left as Dominator gets another penalty. So he's now got 9 seconds worth of penalties, extra penalties compared to Ryan, so that is definitely not going to make a difference if he does make that move stick. But is Fens going to be able to make the move stick on Team Marduk? He doesn't need to get the race win, but it's also always nicer to get the race win by crossing the line first rather than getting it through penalties down the final DRS straight. He closes up on the brakes. but the Williams is not quite close enough. We have a handful of corners left to go, 1 to the left and 3 to the right. The Williams all over the back of the Ferrari as Ben is about to end his final AOR race in the Oceania Leagues. He's going to cross the line in first position, but he's come into this race with a carefree strategy, and that also applies for the track limits apparently. He crosses the line first, but Fens wins the Russian Grand Prix thanks to the penalties. Greekmaster comes home for second place. Dominator does get past Ryan. He comes across the line to get third, drops down to fourth as he has penalties as well. So in the end, New Zealand Ryan does get onto the podium. Dominator gets fourth place, and Ben drops all the way down to fifth after crossing the line in P1.
I did see the time between Fens and Tim Mark at the end of this race added to penalties. It was around about 19 seconds. So, yeah, not the best move from Ben, but he got the win on track anyway, and he probably will be pretty happy with that. He's got some of the glory, but it is another fifth place in a row in his final race in AOR Oceania. We'll wish him all the best as he moves to England in a couple of weeks' time, and I think he's not going to take part in any AOR races at all for Europe and pretty much till season 17. So that's his last AOR race for pretty much a while. As we've got Brendan Lee at the top of the podium as Fens has chosen him as his race avatar there. A nice choice, I must admit. As Fens gets his first win here in season 16, a very well deserved. And I think he had a very good half of season 15. So well, season 2. In RN, so looks like he usually has better half in the season. He's learning the car a little bit. He's usually no lines, and he's got a good result. 1-2 finish is definitely well deserved for the Williams drivers.
Yeah, 1-2 finish for the Williams drivers. Fens finishing in first place, Greekmaster in second, the exact same way for the top 5 as they actually lined up on the grid, and Neon Tridome is the first driver to actually make up a place, going from 7th up to 6th. But there you can see all the penalties that were applied through that race. There were a lot of them. 23 seconds worth of penalties there apparently for Tim Marduk in his final AOR Oceania race, but he did cross the line in first. He'll be happy with that, but the points don't really matter because he is leaving this series. But as the championship goes, that is an extra 3 points for Greek over New Zealand Ryan. That pushes the gap out to 13 points with another 5 rounds to go. Still very, very close between those two. And it's also, in terms of the constructors, a great day for Williams with the 1-2 finish. Ferrari 3rd and 5th. They will pull away even further. I believe they had a 70-point lead already, so they're going to extend that quite a bit.
Yes, very well done to Greekmaster for holding the edge on that as well. We are in the process of getting the top 3 into interviews. I don't have New Zealand Ryan on my friends list, so we'll see if we can try and get him added. I don't know if you have him, Fitcho, but we will try and get him for the interviews. If you have any questions for the drivers in the top 3 today, please let us know in the chat. Please be sensible questions, please. We don't want any rude ones or anything like that, because we may have you may have some questions that we may have missed out on. So whilst we try and get New Zealand Ryan in the party, then we will speak to our pretty much champion, well, our race winner today, Fens. Well done in your race victory here today. Possibly that car on the pit stops probably helped you with that race victory today, but was that what you were expecting in terms of points today on that race victory?
Completely not, no. I've been busy with Bathurst all weekend, so first time I really hopped on this game apart from this another league was today, and so yeah, I didn't expect to have this pace. I got like the perfect lap in at the start of the session. Like, I'd never really done a lap that quick before, and then yeah, I got a bit lucky with Greekmaster's bullshit. Sorry, I shouldn't swear. Annoying penalty. Stop go in the pits.
Yes, tell us, how did you manage your ultra soft tyres? You were just pretty much struggling towards the end there, and you probably know that Team Armada had a few penalties as well. Did that come into fruition when you were trying to get the move down on Team Armada? Were you managing to hold that position to try and not make contact with him, or were you wanting to get the track position anyway?
Yeah, I knew about Ben's penalties. I didn't really know the Greek had a penalty till the end of the race, so I was a bit like, hurry up, Ben, but didn't really matter anyway, because yeah, so then when I found out he had a penalty on those last few laps, I was just trying to stay behind him, just make sure there wasn't a crash or anything.
And that's definitely going to put you in good deed for the constructors as well. Williams still taking the win there. Now the next race will be Japan, and do you like Japan? Is that a strong track for you?
I seem to be the only real person that doesn't really like it, to be honest. So I'll see how it goes though.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I have any questions. We have any questions for Fens in the chat? No, we don't. So let's move on to our second place man, Greek Master 99. Well done on your result here today. I was worried that the softs weren't going to work out, but you definitely proved that it did work out for you in the end. How did that feel to get on the crosser line and get that double 1-2 podium for Williams today?
Yeah, awesome. That's our is that our first 1-2 or second 1-2? I can't remember. Second 1-2 after Austria, yeah.
Austria.
So yeah, a good result for the team. Good result for the Constructors Championship as well. So looking good.
Looking good for you. Well, when you went to the pits and went on the soft and you started to pull back from the rest of the field, were you starting to get a bit worried that you weren't going to catch up to New Zealand, Ryan? And Fens, were you hoping that their tyres were going to run out eventually?
I wasn't worried at all. I knew what the drop-off was like on the ultra soft tyre. I was just annoyed about the pit lane issue. The stop-go I got around the corner cutting on the way into the pit lane. I think Brian's had that issue before, so he knows what it's like.
Yeah,
but
I've seen a few people have that issue as well.
Annoyed me a bit because it cost me obviously the 5 seconds I had to serve it. But yeah, no, interesting race. Obviously my start wasn't too good. Fens was desyncing a little bit. Then Ryan got ahead of me. Then the two of them were battling. Then I managed to get both of them into turn 4. And after that, I'm like, I might give Fens a little bit of a pay rise next week. I wanted on the race. I'm like, nah, his pay rise is not coming. He ain't getting no pay rise now because he won the race. But nah, good job. He deserves it.
So you're gonna get the key.
Yeah.
You're gonna get the key to Fens now. Out of the box.
I'll give him the key to the city. I'll give him the key to the city.
Yeah, the key to the city. That's one thing. And Japan, as I was saying, the Fens, is that a strong track for you, or are you like Fens and you don't like it too much?
I love Japan. I'm the complete opposite. Japan is God. I pray to it every single day. Can't wait for that track.
Nicely done there, and well done on your 1-2 there. And finally, we move on to New Zealand, Ryan. P3, not a bad result for you today, and another podium to your name. Were you expecting though to get the win, or was P3 the best of your expectations?
Yeah, I'd say P3 would be the best I could hope for. Obviously, the lack of preparation this weekend, so yeah, I knew I had to try make as much ground up at the start, and it's a bit of contact, but it's fine. So I tried something else once I was behind Greek and Pins, and obviously benefited massively from Greek's stop-go, which is, yep, nice game. But yeah, the ultras died off at the end and couldn't really do much.
Yeah, you were starting to lose a bit of time to Greek Master towards the end. I was worried that were you going to lose a bit of time due to those ultra soft running out. If you were to do that race again, do you think you would have pit a lap later and it probably wouldn't have died out too much, maybe?
I don't know. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. I probably would have just gone on softs as well. Never really crossed my mind to do that. So, doesn't matter now, it's done.
and the championship is still within sight for you. It is not over yet. Regarding the final tracks we've got on offer, with 5 rounds to go, I believe. Is Japan going to be your strong track, or do you have the Americas tracks to go, which you probably show your full metal?
I'd be surprised if I beat Greek at Japan, we'll put it that way. We'll see.
I really can't wait.
I'm usually not too bad at the rest. So.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that battle approaching for these final few rounds to go of this race. That's it for the podium interviews, but it's not over for interviews as such, as we do have someone in the party, don't we, Fitcho?
Yeah, I saw a lot of people in the chat saying they wanted to get Ben into this party, interview him just because it is his last race and he's moving away. I don't have any questions lined up per se. You did go very aggressive in this race, let's say, knowing it was your last race. Points don't matter. Didn't give a crap about the penalties and just went hammer for tong, didn't you? All out.
Well, I put on a good show, didn't I?
Yeah, I guess that is one way of looking at it. I did have to continue to write down your penalties throughout the race and keep an eye on the bottom left of the screen with you around. That was a bit annoying.
I will say it wasn't intentional. It was kind of like spurred on after the two incidents with Dominator. He like hit me off into a penalty, and it made me angry. So I drove more aggressively, and that was fast apparently. But I wasn't like purposely cutting corners. Like the cuts I was getting were just like some minor and some that were absolutely like not justified. And then I went into the pit lane for my pit stop and I was doing 60. I was doing the speed limit and I got a 10-second stop go, so 10 seconds can be taken off there. But yeah, it was good. I overtook everyone in front of me and had some good fun there, so it was a pretty good way to round off.
Yeah, I guess you could say it is a good way to round off. Gave it your all. Had some fun, I guess, at the end of the day. That's half the point of league racing, to go out there and have a little bit of fun. I guess people also want to know what your plans are for AR in the future. Obviously, you're not doing any more Oceania races. You're moving to the UK. I doubt you're going to be doing any UK races for the rest of this season. I'm guessing next season of AOR you'll be in one of the Xbox European splits potentially.
No, that's it. I'm out. I'm done. I'll see you later. No more league racing forever. Nah. Plan is to do AOR again. Not sure. I'll see how I feel once I get over there. Probably not this season, but maybe next season. I might be a reserve or something. I might do it full time. I don't know. Ask me in a couple of weeks once I'm settled, and I'll let you know. But the plan is to keep competitively racing. That's for sure.
Alright, cool. So you're out of the championship equation because you are not going to be racing in the last few races, but between Greek and Ryan, who do you think is going to win the championship? Now, I know Ryan's your teammate and you're good friends with him, so you're probably going to be biased towards him, but realistically, who do you think is going to win this championship?
I was actually thinking Jared was going to win, but he didn't show up, so his pace in the last few weeks has been amazing, but that kind of rules him out now. I don't know, like, Ryan was a bit distracted this week with iRacing. Japan's a really good track for him. He's not gonna, you know, he's a bit humble, so he's very good there. I think it's gonna go down to the wire, to be honest. Just, I don't know, whoever has the most composure, qualifying well. There's just so many things that are gonna go into it. I really can't separate these guys, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Very diplomatic answer, but let's say if you're a betting man, who would you put your money on right now if you could?
That's the thing, I honestly can't pick between these guys. I 100% hand on my heart, I don't know who's going to win.
This is going to be awkward. This is awkward.
Yeah, you could be a good F1 driver or team principal with this sort of question dodging skills you've got going on here.
What's the gap now between Greek and Ryan?
I believe it's 13 points to my calculation.
Well, Greek looks like the favourite, but I don't know. Let's say Greek, just based purely on points then. You wanted an answer, so there you go.
There we go, going against his teammate. Ooh, interesting.
Guess he can't get sacked from Ferrari now. Anyway.
Oh, I have one less person on my friends list now. What's going on? We'll go down to the last race. It'll be fun.
Should be exciting. We've got 5 races left. I'm not too sure if there's any break weeks coming up. Do you know, Jess?
I'm not entirely sure. I'll look
Next week.
Next week.
Oh,
Next week's a break
no
week.
race. Oh, okay. I thought there was
Right,
no
cool.
race.
So there's no race. no race next weekend, but the weekend after we're back again for Japan. Then we have 3 races in the Americas, Coda, Mexico, Brazil, and then we end it all off in Abu Dhabi. And based on Ben's confusion, it looks like it's going to be a very interesting title fight between Greek Master and New Zealand Ryan. Don't know which way it's going to go, but right now the advantage sits with Greek Master to a number of 13 points. And then you've got Jared to factor in there. He is a bit of a ways behind, and he slept through his alarm today, which has really cost him, I would say, in this championship fight. But you never know. Greek, Ryan have been battling very robustly, let's say, on track, and have been very close to things going very wrong. If that does happen, that could open a door for Jared. But 5 races to go. We don't know which way it's going to be, which way it's going to go. Week off next week, but then we're back again for Japan, same time. Make sure you do tune in here on the AOR channel. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel so you know when that race does happen. Of course, you can follow them on Twitter, as they will tweet about when the races are coming up and all that stuff. And of course, you got all the other great racing from AOR, including the European leagues coming up later tonight, and the American leagues going into the early hours of the morning if you're in the UK, or even sort of when you're at work if you're in the Australian region, along with everything off the F1 games. But plenty of great racing, so subscribe to the AOR channel. Make sure you're back here in 2 weeks' time as this championship fight continues on into Japan. But I think that's going to do us for tonight, Jess.
Yes, that is. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget, if you our personal channels for me and Fitcho are in the description as well. And don't forget to subscribe to Apex on Online Racing. And once again, Ben, good luck on your adventure to the UK, and it's been great you taking part in AOR Oceania, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you, it's been a pleasure.
And thank you guys for watching. Also thanks to our sponsors, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time in Japan.